This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a volunteer-based community access station. For more information, go to www.radiokidnappers.org.nz. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this program available through funding the Access Internet Radio Project.
You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is a program called Acupuncture on Air, and as always, it's our pleasure to have in the hot seat Heiko from the Acupuncture Clinic in Hastings. How you going, Heiko?
I'm very good, Ken, and I heard you're just back from Hawaii last night, and look, you come back to a fantastic storm.
I know, and look, in Hawaii, not that you want to make people jealous, but it was 34 degrees on average. It was boiling hot, actually, and while it's great to get away, it's always good to come home. That's what I think. Now, today we've got a special guest, Dr. John McDonald from Sydney in Australia. But before we get to Dr. John...
No, not from Sydney.
Where is he from?
Queensland, Gold Coast.
Queensland. I was just testing you to see if you're alert.
Yeah, because he was in Sydney when I was his student.
Oh, that's right. Well, before we get to Dr. John, Heiko, just remind our listeners where you are. We want to come and see you for a bit of the old needle. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Hastings, 206 Charles Street. And now let's have a chat with John. Are you online there, John?
I am indeed.
That's very good. And how's it over in Queensland at the moment? What, you got any storms or cyclones or anything?
No storms, no cyclones. It's just what we call cold here, which means that it's not comfortable in a t-shirt.
So we got a couple of things to talk about today, but it's partly just sort of to help promote your visit coming up to New Zealand, coming to Auckland. It's at the end of June or the beginning of July, John?
Both. It's the 30th of June and the 1st of July I'll be there.
All right, that's fantastic.
Is it part of a world tour, John, or is it just between us good old buddies, Australia and New Zealand? It's a bit like a Rolling Stones tour, I suppose. You're getting out and about, pressing the flesh with fans?
Well, I've been a few places this year. I've been to, Sydney. I've been to Kansas City. I've been to Oakland and Los Angeles, and during the rest of the year, in addition to Auckland, I'll be doing Sydney, Perth and Paris.
Right, okay. And I think it's going to get probably even more busy for you in the future, because now that we have what do we call it, an organisation, it's called the Acupuncture Now Foundation, and they help sort of promote education as well as speakers like you. Can you tell us a bit about the Acupuncture Now Foundation, John?
Yes, Acupuncture Now Foundation was the brainchild of a Californian acupuncturist, Matt Bauer, and actually caught up with Matt in Los Angeles when I was over there just recently. And the concept of the Acupuncture Now Foundation is to collect research information about acupuncture and then find the zingers in there. For example, like acupuncture is twice as good as conventional care for low back pain. Sort of little short, sharp statements like that to catch the attention of the public. So we want to educate not only the public, but other health professionals and also the people that make health policy to decide where the resources go.
Where the funding and so forth goes, yeah.
Yes, indeed. So Acupuncture Now Foundation started in California, but now we have active branches in New Zealand and also in Australia. And it's an organisation that works globally, so we collaborate and cooperate and have done quite a few projects with groups all over the world, Brazil, Europe, Canada, Israel, all over the place. That's
great. Now, because I know that when you're coming to Auckland, you're going to actually be doing two seminars, if you like, two separate seminars, and the first one is about, from what I understand, the historical recorded use of acupuncture points, and then comparing it to like clinical experience. Do you want to just tell us a bit about what you're going to be going through in your first conference?
Yeah, sure. That one of the big advantages that Chinese medicine has is a continuous literature that goes back to years BC, and so very few branches of medicine have such a wealth of recorded experience. And so whilst there's lots of different ideas about how particular acupuncture points could be used or what's the best point to use for a tennis elbow or a migraine, we have an enormous amount of historical information. So what my interest is to go through that information and find out what is the most consistent and reliable ways of treating a whole range of different conditions, and allow that history to inform our current practice so that we can be more accurate with selecting our points.
You talk about historical references, John, but what about modern time practitioners? I mean, you must be discovering new uses all the time. You must be recording all the new knowledge, surely.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a lot of areas where acupuncture was never used in the past, for example, in cancer care. And so Australia is just about to launch its very first formal training program within a university and hospital, University of Sydney, Royal North Shore Hospital, Mater Hospital. And that's actually being run by somebody who was once my student in acupuncture. He went on to do a master's, a PhD, then he went to Harvard Medical School and worked over there as a postdoc research fellow at Harvard and also at their associated Osher Cancer Centre. And he's now working at University of Sydney and those two hospitals as an associate professor in the School of Medicine at the University of Sydney. And he's teaching acupuncturists how to work as a member of an oncology team in a hospital to give patients a more comfortable journey through their chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and in particular targeting nausea, fatigue and pain, which acupuncture has been shown to be particularly good.
And then give it another, 25 years, Ken, we'll get that over here in New Zealand too.
But
now, you go, Ken?
Yeah, just maybe winding the clock back just a little bit, John. You spoke, when we first got onto the interview, you spoke about how acupuncture was great for lower back pain. But I wonder if it's so good, and Heiko says it's so good every week, and it's working so well, why aren't the regular medical practitioners taking notice of it?
Well, they have been, but the thing is that it's difficult for medical practitioners to incorporate acupuncture into their practice because it takes a lot of time to learn how to do it well. And often medical practitioners just find it very difficult to create that space in their working life to actually do the requisite training. It's generally a 4-year full-time degree. And so to do that amount of training is a bit onerous. And so generally speaking, a lot of medical practitioners do much shorter courses. However, that means that they don't get to reach the levels of sophistication in their practice as the people that are doing the full-time degrees.
But you think that they might incorporate a guy like yourself or Heiko within their practice and say, look, we've got this guy Heiko here. He's a certified practitioner of acupuncture. Go and see him for 10 minutes.
Well, that's certainly one of the goals that we have with the Acupuncture Now Foundation is to educate medical practitioners so that they understand why it's appropriate and when it's appropriate to refer to acupuncturists, and also that they understand that the quality of the training of the acupuncturist is such that they can actually have confidence to refer their patients.
That's fantastic. But just as again, another little sideline, John, because I just wanted to mention to our listeners here that you're actually involved with the World Health Organization and getting all the acupuncture point locations standardised. I mean, because there's been different opinions over the centuries of where the points are. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you were involved?
Yes, the World Health Organization had a process running through their Western Pacific region office, and that initially was basically the best historical experts in acupuncture from China, Korea and Japan. And they discovered when they sat down together that they were, over time, because in China it's been used for more than 2,000 years, in Japan and Korea more than 1,500 years, they found that over that time that some of the ways they'd used points or located points had drifted apart a bit, and so where a particular point was being placed in Japan wasn't the same as in Korea. So they were trying to get an international standard to sort those things out. So there were 6 points which were still in debate, and so the organisation decided to broaden the net a bit and bring in a few other countries. So I represented Australia in that particular process.
Okay, fantastic.
Now, your second seminar, John, is going to be, and it's going to get the skeptics going because I think it's weird. It's about using magnets to help with therapy. What's that all about? I mean, is that the magnet we can go and buy at the shop or what?
It's a magnet you can go and buy, but not at a shop because they're fairly specialised. Manufacturing therapeutic magnets is something you need to leave to the experts because it's quite high tech. So what we are promoting is for acupuncturists to use magnets as an adjunct to their therapy to keep the stimulation going in between treatments, but also for people to use for home use.
And are there any specific conditions like pain, or is it for tiredness or for weakness, or or is it for everything?
That's a very good question. We haven't been using magnets long enough yet to know what their full scope is, but the impression that I have at the moment is that it's probably fairly similar to the scope of practice of acupuncture, and indeed we're finding that there's a number of different ways to use magnets. We can use them by placing them anatomically, but we can also use them by placing them on acupuncture points, and it looks like it's having pretty similar effects to needling the same points.
Yeah, because that's what I thought. Because acupuncture's got this reputation, or the fact is that it does treat pain so well. And then I'm just wondering whether, the magnets first, that's the first thing what they observe, but then I'm just wondering whether with time, it as I said, it might treat, tiredness and weakness and dizziness and irregular hormones. Do you think there's scope for that?
I think there's enormous scope, and as I say, it's still relatively early days. So the magnets we're using these days were originally developed by a neurologist in the States, Robert Holcomb, and he produced quadrupolar magnets. So that was 4 separate magnets, all in a case, in a ceramic case. So the technology now is advanced so that we can actually create 4 magnets within a single piece of metal, so it's neodymium. And so within that one piece of metal, we can now produce 4 magnets. And because there's no space in between the separate magnets, it actually makes them significantly more effective therapeutically. We've also got hexapolar and octopolar magnets as well. So we're still discovering the range of magnetic therapy, but we're pretty confident that it's going to be fairly similar to the range of acupuncture, which is pretty broad.
How long have they been around for, John, magnets like that? Is it relatively new?
The quadrupolar magnets go back to the 1970s. Bipolar magnets, of course, have been around since the beginning of history, and also magnets have been used in therapies since the beginning of history. But the quadrupolar magnets, the hexapolars, the octopolars that we're using now are much more sophisticated, and they've been around, as I say, since the 1970s.
You say that you put them on the acupuncture point, so are you advocating them instead of acupuncture or as well as acupuncture?
They don't seem to be nearly as immediate. So when you needle, you often get effects virtually straight away. The magnets do seem to take a little bit longer. And the way that I would see it is that a model where people go to the acupuncturist, they have their treatment, they get some magnets, the acupuncturist shows them where to place them, they take them home. Then once they no longer need regular acupuncture, they can use them for home use, just sticking them on the same spots if the problem comes back. And then if they have a new problem, they can go to their practitioner and either have acupuncture or possibly even just have the acupuncturist show them where to place the magnets for the new problem. And so where I see it ultimately is every medicine cabinet in the country, instead of having pills in it, has got Band-Aids and magnets.
Do you think you might be putting yourself out of business there by showing them how to do it themselves and say, look, take these home and off you go, buddy?
That would be a dream, but I doubt that that's likely to happen anytime soon. But yeah, I am very much in favour of seeing people have a way that they can treat common household problems themselves without needing the recourse of a practitioner. There's plenty of work out there for us yet. Even if you just take 4 of the 8 things that acupuncture has been shown to have the strongest effect for, that's more than 50% of the population in Australia and New Zealand, and about 70% in the US. And so that's only 4 of the big
So
8.
are people in the US more sick than us?
Plenty of people out there need what we've got.
Yeah. Now, you say that you can buy the magnets from an acupuncturist. Can they buy them from an acupuncturist anywhere, or are they relatively new to the market for selling to the public? I mean, would you sell them, Heiko?
I probably will be, because I'm doing John's course up in Auckland, and then I'm presuming that I'll be able to sort of buy some wholesale and have some available to send to patients. Is that right, John? I'll be able to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely the case. And so at the workshop there'll be special discounts on the magnets. The seminar price includes some magnets to get started with, but also once you're up and running, you'll be able to buy them wholesale, and yes, you will be able to sell them to your patients at retail.
I wonder, Heiko, you haven't used it and you're going along to find out how to use it. Are you sceptical? I mean, this new thing's come along and you think, wow, it's the best thing since sliced
No, not
bread,
really,
or?
because as John did mention, that magnets have been used historically, I think from Egyptian days, probably in Greek days. And I even know in terms of Chinese medicine, they do use magnetic stone even as one of the ingredients for various herbal / medicine formulas. So yeah, I'm quite open to to using it, and of course John's got a very good reputation for being of the scientific mind, and so he wouldn't be going out promoting or teaching this stuff.
So you're not selling snake oil, John, but were you sceptical when you first heard about it before you introduced it into your own practice? Did you think, come on, magnets?
Not really, because when somebody says to me, that's a bit weird, then I have to stop and say, well, I stick needles in invisible points in people and expect it to do something, so I don't have the high ground on weird.
Yeah, that's true. Good on you, John. Look, thanks for joining us on the show today. Heiko, you're going to put the details on the dates up for the seminar. Where?
We'll put the show up onto the YouTube, and then I'll stick that into the comments section. And of course, acupuncturists in New Zealand have been notified of the conference and the seminar. So and that's still being floating out there in various social media outlets as well. So we're expecting to have a pretty well full seminar.
John, if someone wanted to get hold of you, either where you're at right now or a listener from here in New Zealand, how would they contact you? Have you got Facebook, website, physical address?
Yes, I have both a website and a Facebook page. It's Southport Acupuncture.
And what I'll do is I'll put that up into the comment section on the YouTube, make it really easy for people to find. And then and otherwise they can always contact me here. New Zealand listeners can contact me at the Hastings Clinic in 876-3666, and then I can pass on John's details to Australian listeners as well.
Good on John, thanks for joining us. And Heiko, we're going to finish on one of your weird songs.
Yeah, it's very befitting of the day, I think. We've got that crazy storm, and then we've got the workers out there probably fixing up things damaged from the storm with the sound effects there. We've got a song, Dazed and Confused by Led Zeppelin. I know it must be one of John McDonald's favourite songs.
I love Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Good on you, John. Good on you, Heiko. We'll talk to you same time, same place next time.
Okay, thanks very much, John. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Been dazed and confused for so long, it's not true. Wanted a woman, never bargained for you. Lots of people talking, few of them know. Soul of a woman was created below. You hurt and abused, telling all of your lies. Run, run, sweet baby. Every day I work so hard, bringing home my heart and pain. Try to love you, baby, but you push me away. Don't know where you're going, only know just where you've been. Sweet little baby, I want you again.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a volunteer-based community access station. For more information, go to www.radiokidnappers.org.nz. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this program available through funding the Access Internet Radio Project.